Welcome back to the Better Men, Better Ball Player podcast. I'm your host, Trey Cobb. I want to thank you for joining us here on our 76th episode, where we get a chance to talk to Coach Jim Maciejewski from Mauldin High School in South Carolina. Coach Maciejewski, or Coach Mach, has been the head coach at Mauldin High School for 11 years as the baseball coach, and now he's been finished up his first year as athletic director during one of the most challenging times in history. Was the actually athletic director, as he's dealing with protocols and game canceling and quarantines, and but he just finished up his first year there as AD, as well as being the skipper of the baseball coach the last 11 years. But in those 11 years, he's had 36 players go to college, 4 drafted. He's had a free agent signee. He's also been the former assistant coach at USC Upstate under Matt Fincher, and the Dorman High School under Ben Waddle. He's managed the Brockport Riverbats of the New York Collegiate Summer League in 2007. He's also coached at some American Legions from travel baseball. He's been a member of the USA Baseball Task Force. And in 2018, he was scouting for the 14U and 17U team championships, along with serving many NTIS events. Been an assistant athletic director, and now the full-time athletic director there at Mauldin. Coach Mach is just a great guy. Full disclosure here, totally did not press record the first time we had talked. First time in 75 weeks. 75 weeks press and record, and Coach Mach is the first time. Thought I pressed record, tapped it once, touched it once, didn't go back to get it another time to be sure that it wanted to confirm the recording. So had a great conversation, learned a ton, had a bunch of notes, and get to the end and didn't do it. So big mistake with me, being totally transparent, totally vulnerable right now, and made a mistake. And Coach Mach just was a dude about it, man. Like, just love talking baseball, love talking shop. Glad we got to get it done, and said, let's go. We got a chance to make it better the next time. So really can't thank him enough. Never forget this conversation. Never forget our time together. Really glad we got it done. Dude is a dude, man. We talk about his leadership program, his serving the community, get into his extremely unique situation. He is the head varsity baseball coach at Mauldin, as well as the head JV coach at Mauldin High School. So, extremely unique situation. We talk a lot about that. Just kind of blows my mind, and like we just really dive into some of those things. You're really curious about how he gets things done. But he talks about his MAVU program, his leadership program that he does. He based that from Gilly's Growth U stuff. If you haven't checked that out, that was another episode we had. But Coach Mach actually took that from Gilly and had a conversation with Gilly as well about that. He gets into all those things, and we talk about just the challenges with him having to be the JV head coach and as well the varsity head coach. Just super great stuff, and I can't thank him enough. We talked a ton, and I was really thankful for him just being so understanding about the big mess up that I had, and but it was a great time for us to talk some great baseball and talk once again, and really can't thank him enough. So be sure you follow him on Twitter at Maciejewski. It's MACIEJEWSKI24. His DMs are open. Check him out. Also want you to check out the netting professionals, Will Miner and Netting Pros. Netting professionals are improving programs one facility at a time. Netting professionals specialize in the design, fabrication, installation of custom netting for backstops, batting cages, dugouts, scoreboards, BP screens, and ball carts. They also design and install digital graphic wall padding, windscreen, turf protectors, dugout benches, dugout cubbies, and so much more. Will Miner Netting Pros, these guys are guys, man. These guys continue to improve quality products and services to many recreation, high school, and college fields, facilities, and stadiums throughout the country. Please contact them today at 844-620-2707 or info@nettingpros.com. Visit them online at www.nettingpros.com or check out Netting Pros on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for all the latest products and projects. And like I said, I'm very fortunate to be part of the Netting Pros family chat, along with some other really good podcasts, really good guys at putting content out there for the right reasons. So just like this one with Coach Mach, I'm going to get right into it. Enjoy it. Make sure your notes are ready. Here he is, Coach Jim Maciejewski.
I know a lot of guys, maybe not a lot. So some of the guys that I'm pretty close with have started keeping a recorder in their back pocket, like a handheld recorder that they'll just pull it out of their back pocket, talk into it, and put it back up. And they seem like that's helped them kind of stay a little bit more locked in, as opposed to like always, writing, looking down, writing. And that's something I'm interested in trying to.
I feel that as well, because like when you're writing down, I kind of feel like I'm kind of getting away from the game.
Right.
But the real reality for me when I hear that is like, man, am I gonna go through like another like that whole thing when I'm done, like at the end of the night?
Yeah.
Realistically, will I really go through? Because the card is there to sit on that, and I can just read it done.
Right.
I just wonder just the time of it. When I want to get home and spend a little bit of time. That would be the only thing for me. But yeah, I totally get it. And that's one thing, because I know Wes. It's like Westbrook's like, because that's stuff's on your phone, and like the stopwatch on your phone, the voice recorder on your phone. It's like, but it's never a good look. You know what I mean? It's just never a good look, and I totally get that, and I agree. So I just wonder, you think we'll ever get to a time where that's kind of a good look? Because like you can bring out like, you know what I mean?
I think purists will always be against it. I would never have my phone in my back pocket on the field. My wife crushes me because I don't have my phone next to me, on the field, or, well, I called you at 6:30. Well, yeah, we were, taking BP. I'm not gonna have my phone on me. But like just a handheld recording, they're maybe this big handheld recording device. And I don't know, I might mess with it a little bit at practice this fall just to kind of see, if I like it or not. But I know there's guys out there that do it, that really enjoy it, and it works for them. So.
Oh yeah. That's I think you find what it is. And I've just found that I do really like the game card. I remember reading The Cubs Way.
Yeah.
Really falling in love with Joe Madden's card and what he did with that, and how much just trying to make decisions for quicker. That was always a thing for me as I was so developmental that and loved practice and loved the drills and Where my game management, I felt just kind of, I never really give it attention.
Right.
And so reading that really helped. And I really got into that. And I just found that work for me where the game card does. But I totally feel that though. Like I'm sitting here writing as like the pitcher's coming and I'm writing third base, like writing down like this double play cut, or like that kid said something to this kid, like it was a great teammate here. Like, but I totally feel that where maybe it was just a recorder. Yeah, totally get it, man. Like I just said, maybe that works next. Maybe that's the next thing in the evolution here.
The worst thing that could happen is you try it and you don't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I go back from my game cards and I rewrite everything anyway in our post-game report. So I don't know if taking the recorder out, it'll be easier. If it'll be more time, I have no idea. But it's something I want to give a try for sure.
For the fact of that, it might save you time, or you think it might just be better?
I think it would be better in the moment. Because like you just said, I'm in total agreement that I find myself just constantly writing. I want to make sure I don't miss anything, and it takes away from a little bit of being in the moment of the game. I might miss something else, so I'm going to try it this fall and just kind of see. Will it help me kind of stay more locked in, more of the time, all of the time, during practice or during a game.
And so when you're let's say you're taking the notes, the game card, like what kind of things do you like to key on? Are these things that you're going to bring into practice, or these things that you kind of like to reflect and kind of praise?
Just like you said, it might be a comment. It might be a response. Kid might have struck out, but his response is big league, that I want to make sure I address the next day of practice. It might be a negative response. It might be, something specific in the game. A guy makes a heady play. He has to feel he does something that, is not necessarily something that we've coached, but is a plus mental play. Writing down hinge moments, like what was a huge point in the game, and highlighting that so we could talk about, hey guys, in that bottom of the third, when we got out of that first and second, nobody out jam, we got a double play. Our pitcher made a pitch. There was a huge block at some point, maybe with a runner at third, and we won by one. Like, I want to be able to refer back to those things the next day or 2 days later at practice, whenever it may be. In addition, I keep track of our offense on our card, like our quality at bats, our hard hits, our barrels, I guess, and stuff like that. And my game card has our pitching rotation kind of scripted out. In addition to what moves we'll make defensively, our courtesy runner, I call him a game winner. So if there's a guy we want to bring off the bench, as a runner at second or runner at first, if we need a big run, stuff like that. I try to be as prepared as I possibly can, looking ahead. And I just have spots for it on my card that we're able to do. And then on the other side of it is just our opponent. I track our opponents and some tendencies and what they're doing, and the moves that they make. And we play 3-game series in our state, so just to kind of see if there's, are they always running in certain counts, or are they always doing certain things? Are there patterns within their pitch calling that we can get early, stuff like that.
How much like scouting will you do prior to?
Very little, if any. Yeah. We just don't have the time.
Yeah.
We may, email some guys that have played some teams earlier in the year, and I think everybody does that. Hey, what do you got on these guys? But then again, not everybody tries to be as detailed as we are, with pitches that are called or locations. And ultimately at the high school game, in the high school game, you might see a guy and get a scouting report on somebody that saw, a 75-mile-an-hour throwing left-hander, So is it going to play true to what you're throwing, or what you're seeing, or whatever it may be? I feel pretty good that we can see a team play, go through the first or second, 2 times through, and have a pretty good feel for what guys do in the box and how we're going to be attacked on the mound and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. And then focus on yourself,
right.
Guys get better.
Right. Because if we don't do the things that we need to do to be successful, what we know about the other team doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We can know everything, but if we can't field a ground ball, we can't execute pitches, we can't hit balls hard and run the bases and do those types of things, all that other stuff's irrelevant.
Absolutely. Especially in a high school game. We're mostly going to lose games, they'll have to. You're more likely to lose a game than win it.
Right. You gotta force the other team to lose, make them make as many more mistakes than you guys are probably going to make, because there's not many high school games that are going to be clean on both sides. So we got to do everything in our power to make them make more mistakes than us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Speaking of I love the game stuff, man. You're thinking about doing the recorder, you do your game card. Is there anything else been in the past that's kind of worked for you, or things that you've kind of maybe that did work, maybe they don't work anymore, or something maybe always thought about?
We're pretty basic. Like I said, we have scouting reports that we keep, throughout the year. So if we see a guy for 3 or 4 years, we have a ton of at bats on guys. Your basic, what everybody probably does, pitcher tendency, as far as pitch calling, hold patterns, quality at bat charts. Something I stole from Steve Dinneman, who's now at Northern Kentucky, is the positive board. So we have a whiteboard in our dugout, and something positive happens on the field, in the dugout, whatever it might be. It may not even be a baseball play. The kids have to write it up on the whiteboard. And we refer back to it, after the game and say, okay, there was some, the hope of it is to just keep the game. keep the kids engaged, and refer back to it after, it might be a tough loss. It might be a win that was ugly. We just want to look, how many things did we do well today that the average baseball fan, the average parent, wouldn't notice. I think Jeff Sherman does it down at Marcus. I think we pretty much all stole it from each other, and I love it. It just keeps the kids in the game. Coaches can write up there too, and it just gets them looking at more maybe process based than results on the field.
Yeah, brings a lot of value to everyone too.
Right.
Definitely brings some value.
But we're, like I said, we're basic. We're not groundbreaking really in anything we do. Like I said, we don't have the time to go out and scout. Our staff is small. We coach both teams. We play, varsity plays 3 nights a week. JV will play 2 nights a week. We practice on Saturdays. So our time's pretty limited.
So you're saying your staff coaches varsity and JV? Correct. So like you're the head varsity coach and the head JV coach?
Yeah, I'll run both. And we just, I'd hate to say this, that's the way we've always done it, but it works for us. The financial resources of it works for our school, for what we get, for this number of supplements that we have within our district. And it's just something I think is a little bit more beneficial for those kids that, they have the same staff for 4 years.
Wow.
We have middle school baseball in our county. We're the only county in the state of South Carolina that has middle school baseball. Everybody else within the high school program has a C team, which is, middle school level, JV, which is freshman and sophomore, and then a varsity team. So, they might have 3 or 4 teams on their campus. So they get those kids as 7th graders, whereas we get them as freshmen. So we have to kind of do things a little bit different to hopefully try to make up those 2 years of time. In the weight room, in the classroom, on the field, those guys get them. They're 2 years ahead of us. So we get them as 9th graders that this summer going into their 9th grade year, and we're with them. We're with them every day until they graduate, the same 5 or 6 coaches. So, and then you have issues with bus drivers. We drive the bus. So we got a couple guys with CDLs, and we got to drive them. And so I'll stay back with the varsity. If there's a JV game with one of our coaches, 3 or 4 guys will take the JV, and then we'll get in the truck after varsity practice and go meet him at the JV game.
Daggum. And this is something you knew going into it, that you were going to coach both of them. It wasn't something, we just didn't have enough guys, and can you be the guy? You just knew going into it, like, hey, you're going to be the head JV and head varsity coach.
Yeah, I did it for 4 years as an assistant at Dorman.
Okay.
And I just fell in love with the philosophy, with the idea of being with those kids all the time. So by the time they get to be, a junior, you got them.
You
definitely with them. It's the same terminology. It's the same ideas. They know where I stand. I know them, and they just wear a different uniform and play at a different time. We practice together. We all practice at 4:00, and we run it together.
Wow, yeah, that's a different model there. That's for sure. I didn't know. Wow. Daggum, that's a lot. We can roll into that. Man, that's really cool. 'Cause that's even like what I like about this model right now with like I took a team now they're freshmen, to coach them in the summer and the fall, and then being for me, I just love the idea of and I'm sure guys will come and go, it's not gonna be perfect, but there's a core nucleus that for me to see them through high school, I like that, You'd have your kids, being a varsity head coach for 11 years, you have a handle on it, but I also wanted to empower my JV coach and let him run his program. But man, buddy, that's so, man, just little things, man. You got a makeup game. And so you got a makeup game. Now you got to play on a Tuesday night. You also have a JV game. So I'm sure that you maybe your assistant coaches just roll and you just stay.
Yeah, we do everything we can to not have that happen.
Yeah.
So we'll maybe move a JV game before we move a varsity game, obviously.
Yeah.
But we do everything in our power to develop our schedule to where there's no conflicts. Is it hard? Yeah, it's tough. It's long, because there were days last year, there were weeks last year, we had games every single night as a coaching staff. Double headers on Saturdays with JV,
Yeah.
but again, I just feel like with our situation, with getting them as freshmen and losing those 2 years with them, it's just so beneficial for where we're at to have those guys for that amount of time. We've had success with it, and I enjoy it most of the time. I mean, JV baseball, it can get rough at times, and the learning curve is much steeper.
That second game of doubleheader on a Saturday, boy. Oh, let me tell you something.
Well, we play our doubleheaders in JV are 5 innings, so it doesn't get too terrible.
Smart.
But the rewarding part of it is just being there and watching their growth is really, really cool. For example, last year, our JV guys at the beginning of the year, God love them, if they're listening, I've told this to them. They couldn't play catch in August. Like, it drove me insane. They couldn't play catch, to the point at the end of last season, they're like playing real baseball. They're putting bunts down, and they're getting big hits, and they're pitching, and they're defending. And we never thought we were going to get there. And just to see where they were last August in comparison to this August, it's unbelievable. We're not world beaters by any means. We still have a long ways to go in all aspects of their development. But it was really, really cool to watch them just try to hang on every word that we said and really genuinely tried to do what we asked them to do. And they got better. And that was really, really cool. Now, if I were to just focus on, the 20 varsity guys, I would have never seen that growth. Yeah. I would have never, felt as proud of them as I do for where they were and where they are now if I wasn't a part of it. Like, we worked our tails off to coach those kids, and they worked their tails off to get better. And to see what they are now, it's really, really cool.
Yeah, super cool. I was just thinking, like, senior night, man. Like, dude, we've been through so much. Yeah. I remember you couldn't get a bunt down, like I just, as a coach, you just get that, like that senior night, what that was, those guys come out, I'm just like hugging them up, oh my gosh, like that's a whole nother level,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I get that with a handful, of those guys that might have played both ways, both teams as a freshman. But man, yeah, like if you're dealing with that kid, like the 8th hole hitter on the JV, teaching him how to bunt, yeah, man, that senior night is pretty special. Like
Right.
that is definitely where you're definitely making some marks on some guys.
Right.
Because that is a good age too. Like they'll listen and like, they're going to definitely want to listen to every little piece of information you got, because they know you're the varsity head coach too, and you're there, so like that's nice for your end. Just but they're sponges at that time too, being freshmen and sophomores, knowing where they want to go.
Right. And it's a delicate line too. I'm an emotional guy. I'm a fiery person. One of my faults is that my patience runs thin,
Amen.
Dealing with me, it's a funny transition within our program, because as freshmen, they're scared to death. They don't know what to expect. They've been with me in the summertime, but it's more relaxed. And I try to stay the same guy every single day, but naturally, like I said, my lack of patience, it shows some days more than others. But watching them as freshmen, where, they're really, really unsure about everything, to being a sophomore where they're like, okay, I'm starting to get it. Like this dude's just going to coach me hard and wants me to be the best that I can be. And then by the time they get to be a junior, like they get it. It's not personal. It's not me being a jerk just to be a jerk. It's me trying to get every single ounce of energy, baseball potential, student potential, whatever it may be, out of them. And they understand that, to being a senior, and they're relaxed. They understand. They know what those expectations are. They get it. They're comfortable, and they're out there just doing their thing. And it's a really cool progression to watch.
Very unique, like crazy unique. Another question. Thinking about your staff, like your staffing, and then you wear the AD hat. So, like, are you looking for more staff? Is that why it's hard? Is that why you have a small staff? Because it's hard to have a guy buy into, like, hey man, we do it all here.
It's tough. It's challenging. I mean, I interviewed a couple guys last summer, and again, we're provided the head coach supplement. We get an assistant varsity supplement, and we get technically a JV supplement. So we have 2 paid assistants. And I interviewed a couple guys and said, hey, look, COVID, we didn't get to do any fundraising last year. We don't have money to pay you. This is what we expect out of our coaches. We want you to be there in the summer. We're going to do stuff in the fall in the weight room. We have open season in January. The season runs from February to May. At the end of the season, the boys get a month off, and we're back in the weight room June 1st. Do you want to be a part of it? Yeah, it'd be awesome. I want to do it. Let's do it. I love being around kids, love helping them. Cool. Well, we can't pay you anything. Oh, well, I gotta talk to my girlfriend, talk to my wife. Cool. I get it. And those situations don't work out, which is probably better for us, because if you're in it to make the $1,200, $1,500 that you're going to make as an assistant, you're probably not for us. And we have 3 volunteers on our staff. One coaches football and just loves being around the game. Does a great job. Another guy has been with me for several years. He works for UPS, and his shift is 3 a.m. till 11 a.m. So he works 3rd shift. And Jamal works from home, and he gets his day done at 3 o'clock and gets his tail to practice as quick as he can. So Wayne's retired. He's 7. He just turned. Yeah, he's going to listen. So I better get this right. I think he's 73. And he's the best assistant coach to me in the country. He's amazing. He does everything and beyond of what an assistant coach needs to do. And it's unspoken. Like, he knows what needs to get done. And we have Garrett, who's our pitching coach, who teaches middle school PE right down the road, and he's got duties that he has to take care of after school. So we technically only have 1 teacher that's not even at our school on our staff. So, Garrett's got young kids, AJ's got a young daughter. So we're all trying to balance all this stuff and still be committed to our program. And it's challenging at times. It's really, really hard, but I wouldn't trade those dudes for the world. They're very loyal. They get to the field and are with our kids whenever they can be. And we just try to work and figure it out to where they can be dads and they could be really, really good baseball coaches as well.
Mm. Yeah, it's a special coach, man. Like, to do the high school schedule, to the it's a different animal,
Right.
and you definitely need to love it, have the passion to do it, and then the reality is just the hours to do it. Like, like you got to have a job that allows you to get there,
And that's kind of the difference. Like we were talking about earlier with some schools, to either direction of us, and I was in a school district where, oh, cool, you're going to be a varsity a baseball coach here. All right, what's your degree? Okay, you got a PE degree. Cool, we're going to go put you here. My wife, I couldn't tell you how many times she's come home and told me, yeah, we got another classroom aide that's going to be an assistant soccer coach or an assistant football coach, and they find them positions within the district. Our district, it doesn't really happen like that. You know, and it's a good thing because you got to be a really, really good teacher to be in our school district, and that's their priority, which it should be. Not to say those other school districts aren't looking for good teachers, because I think they are. But, you know, it's just more difficult to get a teacher coach within our school district, because they have extremely high standards. So we have to get a little bit more creative and you know, ultimately, if they're good dudes that want best for kids, like we can teach them what our offensive philosophy is, or you know, how we're going to execute cuts and tandems or whatever it may be. If they're good around kids and they're willing to learn and put in the time, we'll take them. We'll take them.
Amen. Totally agree there. That's what we're all about too. I mean, just because a lot of people just can't do the schedule, you know? So
Right.
like, all right, yep. If you can handle kids, and you're good around the kids, you're a good role model, I'll teach you the game. You know, like that's secondary.
Right.
I'll teach you the game. If I can teach these 14-year-olds or even just these knucklehead 18-year-olds who think that,
Right.
you know, it's just, you know, we can get all those kids to buy in. I think we'll get this guy in who loves the game and wants to be there.
100%.
Yeah, man. Totally with you. I just think it's, you know, for me, you know, guys that listen, you know, maybe they're complaining about the challenges that they have, you know, and they're like, oh, it's so tough here. Like it just goes to show, like, everybody's got challenges, you know, like, and that right there is such a unique challenge that I've never heard that anyone say, like, I coach, I'm the head coach of both of them, you know, and like, oh, you're going to come in here, well, you're going to be head JV coach and head varsity coach. But like your attitude about it, your mindset and the way that you've taken it, you know, and that's why it's still very hard, but like it allows you to keep with it, you know, because you've done, now correct me if I'm wrong, like you did that, you've done this since day one, right? You've taken over
11 years. Yeah.
So 11 years of being head JV and head varsity coach, being at every game, you know, practicing with these guys.
I mean, this is how sick and demented my mind works. And you know, I skipped a JV game last year to go watch my kid play, and I felt really bad about it. You know, I'm watching my 10-year-old son play, knowing that right down the road, you know, our JV guys are playing a game, and it's completely wrong. Like, I shouldn't have felt an ounce of guilt, right? Because again, I'm sitting there watching my son, but there was a chunk of me that was like, dang, I can't believe I'm missing this JV game, you know? And, you know, there's times where our guys are like, dude, you got to let us handle this today, you know? And I appreciate that about them, you know, where they can be honest with me and say, hey, we got this. Like, you need to go home. And will unwillingly, like, I'll say some words under my breath and stomp into the locker room and get my bag and I'll go home. But it doesn't happen often. I want to be there with them, and I want to be there working, and I want to be there coaching with them. And I just feel like, you know, it's hard for me to preach commitment and dedication and hey, we're going to get better if I'm not there with them. So that's kind of my mindset.
Super cool. Just really cool, unique, and just thinking about how you said you guys are all driving your own vans. You guys are driving the buses.
Yep.
You know, running practices together. All 40 guys have practiced. And then how would you do, like, so what kind of techniques have you found? Like, let's say, you know, varsity has a game, and what's JV doing? You know,
so JV
all you guys are there.
Yeah. So the last 10 years, last 11 years, I should say, we've had a baseball class 7 period, which is, by the time they get dressed, all that included, it's about 35, 40 minutes. So if it were a varsity game day, you know, they're doing their early work or whatever they want to do to get ready for the game in the cage. You know, they're hanging out in the locker room, just getting ready for batting practice. JV is out there, and they're going to kind of go through just like a mini workout. They're going to go out there, they'll do their stretch and their arm care, they'll do their throwing, you know, and then we'll just take them to the cage. We'll have a bunting station set up, or they might, you know, do some defensive work on the field before varsity gets out there. So they'll run a little hour and 15-minute workout before the varsity, you know, does their thing and does their stretching and their bands and their throwing any early defensive work we may have before we hit on the field before their game, and then we send the JV home.
Yeah, that was my next question. Is like, do you have any like in-game maybe duties for those guys to do, or you just let them roll?
We typically let them go. We'll have some of our catchers stay. Like we'll have a rotation with our JV catchers to stay back.
You're like bullpen catcher for the day.
Yeah, to catch pen. Yeah, and be out there to catch up for pregame and stuff like that. But we encourage them to come back. Like, hey, come back and hang out. Like, go in the back gate, come back, and you want to hang out in the dugout, do it. And watch the game, pull for these guys, and it's vice versa for the varsity. We'll come out and whatever we need to get done for the next day's game or in 2 days with the varsity guys, they'll do it on the field while JV, is in the back getting ready for their game. So it's just a constant rotation, constant, just trying to find time and do the most we can with the amount of time that we have.
So is it mostly like individualized? Like we have to do some planning like prior to and say, hey, you got to get this in during this pregame, during pregame when the JV plays tomorrow.
We haven't individualized it. It's a great idea. It's probably something we need to look at, but it's mostly just team based.
Okay.
It's
ground
ball.
I'm just thinking like, do you have enough help? Yeah, I'm just because the reason I asked that is like, do you have enough help to where you can run like the varsities guys to do stuff while you're trying to get the JV guys ready to play the game?
A lot of times it's coaches flying down the hill, getting dressed as they're getting on the car and just jumping in wherever we are. And there's times where, Wayne might be feeding the hack attack on the field during bunts, and I'm up in the corner of our stands where I can see, our 4 cages, and I can see the bunts going on in the field. And I'm just trusting that the varsity is going to be out there, doing their stretching, doing their movement prep, doing their band work, doing their throwing on their own until we get our guys there. And we, like I said, we have great kids to where I wouldn't bat an eye to send our varsity down in the corner to do their stretching, do what they need to do to get ready to play.
How much prep time, like practice wise, like, all right, so I'm sure you got to practice like what pregame looks like for that, because you guys are going to do it so often. It's almost like when your season starts, all right, here's how this is going to roll. So like, how much prep time do you need like leading up to when you guys get rolling like that, where like every day is kind of get in what you kind of get in while we're doing this pregame?
Honestly, we don't practice that routine. It's just a part of what we do every day. So when they do their movement prep, they practice together, I guess, but it's separate, if that makes sense. So like JV's down on one side doing their thing, varsity's here on the other. One group might do their throwing drills and their defensive work while the other group's in the cage doing their offense, or they're on the field doing their base running. And we just time it to where, 30 minutes or whatever the amount of allotted time is, then we'll flip. So the JV will go out there and do their throwing and their defense or base running while varsity goes to the cage or vice versa. So we just try to, whatever one's doing, the other's going to follow. They're just going to flip to where we get to a game day in that specific scenario. And the varsity's doing their stretching while the JV's in the cage and doing their base running and their bunting. And it's really nothing new for them. It's not really a game day routine. It's just segments of practice that we're pulling out that we're going to do prior to the game.
Okay. Yeah, I said it's such a unique thing. It's got like my brain like just spinning of all the things that I would want to make sure that, everybody just, understands. So like, you say life hits you, you got yourself there and the other guys are coming in when they can get in because life happens. And you're just hoping, you guys have to own it, and you guys have to take a little bit of independence of you're going to have to do that on your own.
Right. And we, obviously at the beginning, we try to divide our coaching staff equally and time it to where certain things are going to happen when certain guys get there. So, it's really hard for our pitching coach to get done with bus duty at his school to get there and do, anything with our pitchers early. So we try to get to that segment of practice and time it to where, they have stretched, they've thrown, they might have done some PFP, but if it's time, for bullpens, we're trying to time it so he's there, Garrett's dressed, he can catch his breath from scrambling to get out of school, and everything is scheduled to where guys are there at certain parts. So it takes a lot of communication from our coaches prior and also the day of. Like, I'll try to change. We'll change a practice plan at 2:00 if I get a text from a guy and says, if for AJ text, hey, Avon's sick today, I got to stay home with her. Okay, well, we might have to wait for outfield stuff. We might have to do that tomorrow. Or if Garrett gets stuck and he's got to take, one of his kids to the doctor, or Kristen's got something, so Garrett's got to have the kids. Whatever it is, like we just try to adapt and adjust the best we can. And some days it's like clockwork, and other days it's just a big cluster, because we're just trying to adapt to when guys, because life happens, life happens for them, life happens for me. And we're just trying to do the best job we can with what we're given. And, it's not ideal, but we're not the only ones that deal with it within our county and our area, and we all deal with it. So we're not special, but it's normal for us. Like, that's normal for us to try to organize things when guys are coming in and coming out. And I mean, there's a stretch of 3 or 4 years there where when I was leaving practice at 4:30, 4:45 to scramble across town to get to Furman because I was getting my master's. So it was normal for 3 years for me to leave practice on a Thursday and speed across town so I can get to class 5 minutes late.
Yeah, I just think it's so real, man. It's so good. Like, there's just so many challenges and things like that, like coming into all this, it's not, it's you have to understand the challenges and stuff like that. And life happens, and especially being the life of a high school coach, man, this is real talk, man. I love it.
And it's something, Trey, we kind of take pride in it. It's not easy.
Daggone right, man.
It's not ideal. It's not perfect. And when we can figure it out, and we do win some baseball games, and the kids do get better, and they're having fun, and we're teaching them the game, and we can see them growing. Like, that's what makes it most rewarding, is that, man, we're dealing with a lot of stuff, and we're getting stuff done. And, these kids are playing well, and they're playing the game the right way. And it just makes it so much more rewarding than if it was just, I got 5 coaches on campus who can be there every minute of every practice. They can be there in the summer. They can be in baseball class, 4th block. Like, that would be easy. I wouldn't know what to do with myself. If I knew I'd have a full staff at everything we did, I wouldn't know what to do with myself.
I'm sure you'd love it, though.
Yeah,
I'm sure you'd figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'd be very successful.
It'd be awesome.
Absolutely, but no, it definitely makes you appreciate it, man. It's awesome, man. It's just grinding it, man. It's great. But I mean, just a very unique stuff, man. And I think like for me, like when it gets into it, I know we talked about this, is like, I think there's also more buy-in too, like of the other stuff you're trying to roll. And I know, as trying to make kids better people, and you want them to go put the service in and go work in the community. Now, for me, like, I know you have that buy-in. Like, I know, like, okay, Coach Maul, like he's got, you got him. I mean, like, because you're spending so much time, and you're the guy for them. Like, all right, we're all going to go out here and do this, because this is not just a varsity team. They're like, we're all doing it. And not even like that, because most of the time it's mostly just maybe the varsity team maybe doing those things. But, like, you got them all.
Yeah, there's a lot of time. I mean, there's some things the varsity does on their own, but for instance, the angel tree during Christmas time, like, that's something, and they'll start asking me in a couple weeks, Coach, are the seniors going to get to go shopping again this year? Like, last year, they were really, really concerned that because of COVID, we weren't going to get to go shopping for a couple little kids. And, there's some of it where they're all together. There's some of it where we'll pick and choose. But, we just want them to have the mindset of serving, and, there's other people that have it worse than them. And I don't know, I think we talked about this last time. Our former AD, Steve Ferrady, used to say in every parent meeting, the greatest leader in the history of the world washed other people's feet. And it's something that has always struck with me, and I take pretty seriously. So, and then they get to watch our coaches, again, who have, they're getting up at 2 a.m. to go work, to provide for their family, and then coming to baseball practice, sacrificing 3 more hours of their time. Other guys have different things going on, and they're sacrificing those things within their life to help these kids. And it's my hope that they realize that and they understand it. We don't stand up there and tell them, hey, Coach Turner's working at 3 a.m. Like, well, come on, this isn't hard for you. But I think they understand when, he's after a game, like, he's getting home so he can go to bed because he's got to be up in 3 hours, and doesn't whine, doesn't complain about it. That's just what he does. Or whatever any of our coaches are dealing with. Baseball is something they do because they love it and they love kids. It's not their occupation, like myself or any other head coach out there. Like, I don't know if I should say this or not, but like we were hired to be a coach. The teaching stuff kind of fell into place. Like, this is what we want to do. And I just hope they realize, and all the kids out there in general, what are their coaches giving up to be with them? Because in my opinion, it's a lot.
Mm-hmm. No, that absolutely it is, and then making those sacrifices and, coming in there, kind of swooping in life. Me and my wife were talking about today. We were rushing around trying to get to like just a local volleyball game, and my daughter's trying to play. We're but we had to rush around like right after work to get it done, and thinking like, man, like we both used to, we're coaching high school, and just that feeling and that rush and like, dropping what you had to do, getting out of the door from your classroom, picking up your kid, and like when you get there, you're still kind of like, there's a transition there, like you got to like take off the clothes, like, try to do that whole routine of it. But like, it's still a transition time where we're like, man, like, then that's tough, So I think like what you're saying is, realizing that. And like I said, I think your guys is, man, just knowing just how close with everybody, coaching everybody. It's a very unique dynamic. And I bet you do have guys seeing that and appreciating that more. So along those lines too, because man, it's really cool. When you go through like your leadership stuff, do you see a progression with guys that, first year getting the leadership stuff versus that? I'm sure you're like, well, this might be way over your head right now, but like, in 3 years, this will make sense.
We figure it out after they leave us. And I think every coach out there has had that kid that's come back that was kind of, he was teetering a little bit, kind of bucking the system, but comes back maybe 2 or 3 years into college, or he comes back later and he spits out something you talked about in one of those classes, or maybe one of your core values within your program, and he gets it. There's some kids that really buy into like immediately what you're trying to get them to understand and get them to do. But a lot of they're high school kids. Like they don't have the perspective of, what we're talking about today, it is going to be real life down the road. So it takes some time. My college coach used to always tells me now, like, dude, you're not going to see the finished product. You may never see the finished product. Right. But you got to keep plugging away that at some point, it's going to click. Something you said may have an impact. We've had kids go to the military and come back and go, Coach, man, if you weren't as hard on us as you were, like I would have never made it through. And that's meaningful. We've had guys come back and talk about time management and, figuring out what's important for that specific day and tell us, man, you trying to teach us to put what's most important first really helped me get through, this semester or this entire year. So, we do it in hopes that at some point, if it's in high school, that's awesome. Like that is a plus young man that is trying to implement those things. But it's more so in the hopes of, 20 years from now that it'll help them become better, as a father, as a husband, hopefully as a successful, pillar of their community and whatever occupation they decide to tackle.
Mm-hmm. So will you attack? So I guess practicing together, all of your leadership stuff and your community service will be everybody in the whole program too, as well.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's together.
So like your, not on base U,
Mavs U.
Mavs U.
Yep.
Everybody takes that.
Everybody's together.
Does it look any different with your Mavs U? Does it look any different from freshman year to junior year, or is it just class one, class, first class?
It is.
Class?
So when Tyler helped me like kind of come up with the ideas and the topics and gave me kind of like a starting point several years ago when I was talking to him. I remember one of the things he told me was this thing is going to always change. Like you can't just have a basic curriculum of lesson 1 through, 50. You'll like some things that you do. You're going to hate some things that you do, like anything, but there's going to be some constants within it. And, with social media, as great as it is, there's stuff out there all the time that may relate to our kids or something that we've talked about that we'll pull it and we'll try to tailor it to what we're dealing with at that specific time. So, there's things within that program, we took from Brian Kane in his Pride program that I think are amazing. For example, the fountain and the drain, the microscope, telescope, like stuff like that. It's always constant. We're always going to talk about that stuff. But it changes based on who we have sitting in that room, the dynamic within, within each other, and anything specific that is going on, like I said, within our program, good or bad. And then again, what we see on social media or see on TV, read an article, whatever it may be, and we set them aside. I have a folder within my email that I just drop stuff, and I go through it and kind of set it aside for future lessons and just try to tailor it to our kids and into our program.
And like I said, so like freshman to senior, those guys are getting the lesson. And
it's, every year that we've done it, we have in Google Slides, it's I think it's 18, 19 Mavs U, 19, 20 Mavs. Like, so yeah. They're there. We have them. So it's just a matter of going back. They all start the same way about what they want to get out of being a member of this program.
Yeah. Your core values.
Yeah.
Right.
It'll start the same way. They'll have to come up with their own core values for that specific year. And that'll take about a month for us to narrow it down. And it's on them. Like I'm guiding it, I guess. I'm steering the ship of where I want it to go, what direction I want them to head. But it's on them to come up with that specific year. What do they want to be about? Because I think you'd agree, like it matters more coming from them as opposed to, hey, I'm going to stand up there and tell them we're going to be tough, we're going to be selfless, and we're going to be energy. Well, it doesn't mean anything. It's coming from me. They have to come up with it. They have to put the work in it. And then we come back as coaches and say, hey, you guys said today, or you guys came up with, that you're going to be selfless. Well, we're not doing that. There's a lot of guys concerned about themselves right now. what are we doing? And I think it hits home a little bit more.
Oh, for sure. Giving ownership. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Even like guys coming up with their goals, like, I don't know how this is reaching your goal if you're doing this.
Right.
So just getting into that. So, every year your core values change essentially. I'm sure that, they're all kind of, everybody wants to be tough or everyone wants to be
Right.
teammates. But I'm sure it probably just maybe sounds unique to this year's team.
Right. And, it's something we're going to start Monday. We had our first team meeting this past Monday. And the first thing we're going to do in the classroom this coming Monday on the 30th is start hammering out what these kids want to be about for the year. And the only thing really that has stayed constant, only two things, I guess. The class of 2020 that had their season shortened, we probably spent at least a month and a half coming up with their vision and their mission. Like, what are we going to do? And I mean, it's theirs. And as long as I'm the head coach at Mauldin, that's what it's going to be, because they crushed it with, what does it need to look like as a student? What does it need to look like as a person, as a baseball player, as an athlete? Like, they killed it. And I'm going to get every team that I coach from then on, that's our vision and mission. They did such a good job with it. Another thing we talk about all the time is, and if you follow me on Twitter, I'm always tweeting it. That's Mauldin. And we were struggling, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Had a tough week, whatever it was. Didn't play a good game, and we're on the way back. And Wayne's like, you know what, Mach, we need to get off the field and feel good about the way we play, and say, you know what, that's Mauldin. That's Mauldin baseball. The way we run the bases, the way we act, the way we pitch, our grades, everything about what we're doing needs to be, that's Mauldin baseball. So, giving him credit for that, like that's something we talk about all the time. Like, hey, was our effort today in the weight room, was that Mauldin? Is that what, we'd be proud to hang our hat on? Or, the way we played, or, the way we're acting in the hotel, the way we're presenting ourselves, things like that. So those two are constants. And, we want our kids to, with what we're going to believe in, I want it to be theirs. I want it to be specific to them, because they're different.
Yeah, and in the language, you're basically also creating like common language too,
Right.
if you're going to say that way. Can you walk us through like when you say we work through this for like a month and a half? What does that process look like? Is it a matter of like voting on these things? Are you talking about creating common definitions of those things when you break it down into the player, or so the person, the student, and the player? Are you coming up with those definitions?
Not necessarily definitions, but what can these sets of words, maybe these statements, can they define what us being our best in the classroom? Can that word define being a good student, being a good person, being a good player, being a good athlete, the best they can be? So what we'll do is we'll have a whiteboard in the classroom, and I kind of just mark columns: person, athlete, baseball player, student. And I said, okay, what would it look like for you to be the best student you can be? And they start giving me stuff, and I write every one of them up on the board. And we do that for an entire class period for all those different areas. I take a picture of it, I put it in Google Classroom, and the next time we come in the classroom, we try to narrow it down. Which ones are similar in this column? And we start eliminating till we get down to, maybe a handful of words, of ideas, statements in each one of those columns. And then we start breaking that down. Okay. And trying to break it down to its most basic form of what it actually looks like. And that's how we get it. They get into small groups and they debate within their groups. They try to define each one before they get to finalizing it. And, we come up with our 3 or 4 for that specific year.
Mm. And you're doing that same thing for the mission and vision.
Not the mission and we did it for the mission and vision in the fall of 2019. We talked about what a vision is. We talked about what a mission is and how we're going to attack all of those areas. And I gave each group a different part. So like, I don't know, maybe Jacob Nichols, Eddie Stapes, and 2 other guys, whoever it may have been, we're in a group and said, okay, you guys got to come up with a statement for being the best student you can be and incorporating these things that you've taught, that you defined it as. Okay, you 4 or 5 guys over there have to come up with a statement for being the best baseball player and athlete you could possibly be, incorporating these ideas. And, it was a good couple of weeks for them to come up with these statements, revise them, talk to other groups. Hey, what are you guys doing? And until we built this mission that I'm really, really proud of what they did.
What is your philosophy on the mission and vision? Like, how do you explain it to the kids? Like, my mission is this, the vision is this.
I think the vision is like the overall, the overarching, idea of the program. Like, what are we going to be about every single year? What do we want our program to be known for? And then I think the mission is, how are we going to get there? How the mission should be, how are we going to achieve our vision? And, we break it down into those different parts that we feel are really, really important. And, they put it together, and it's awesome.
What's the mission this year? I guess we haven't probably put that together yet, have you?
Well, it'll be the same.
Yeah, but the same, right?
Yeah, we're keeping that mission statement as a staple of our program as long as I'm there. Okay. How we're going to be on time for class. We're going to be prepared. We're going to plan ahead. We're going to ask for help. In all those ideas that go into being a good student. In the weight room, we're not going to shy away from hard work. We're going to +1 is in there. Plus, we're going to have a +1 mentality that I'm going to do more than is expected. I'm going to compete, and I'm going to do the absolute best I possibly can be. And again, I just think those ideas that those kids came up with, those are constant. Like, I don't think they could rewrite it however they wanted to. But again, the way those kids did it is really, really special.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. That for sure is. And then, yeah, that's good. That's good. Because it's just funny. I just feel you just hear mission stuff. Because I know you talk about Brian Kane. Brian Kane talks about the mission and vision a little different. Everybody has like their kind of take on mission and vision statements. And, for one guys will have it like 3 or 4 sentences. You don't know what it is. And, just you there, like, knowing what it is, it's part of you. And I think that's like, for me, like, it's what it always came down to is like, can you tell me what the mission is? If I asked every kid in the program, would they know what it is?
Right. And, humbly, they right now they wouldn't, because we have freshmen in our program that, for the majority of the year, we're on campus 2 or 3 days a week, and we weren't allowed to be in a classroom. And it was a lot of it is my fault. Looking back, I would change last year in a heartbeat with a lot of the things we did. And it couldn't have been a different year for us. But, one thing that it taught me was, this kind of stuff that we're talking about, I think is really, really important with where we are within our program and our kids. And it taught us that this is the kind of stuff we need to be doing. It's about getting them to be better baseball players. But getting them to buy into being better people is more important.
Mm-hmm. The chemistry of it.
That's right.
building that chemistry. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Oh, that's good. Woo! That was good. I was just thinking about, like you said last time, about like building chemistry. You had a chemistry problem, not a leadership problem, right? And trying to be chemistry builders more than necessary leadership builders, right?
Right.
That's kind of the take you're taking on it.
That is the take I've adopted, because I used to be on the exact other side of that idea of that. You have guys that care about one another. The leadership of it will come out because they don't want to let anybody down. They don't want to let their teammate down. So, we've had this debate within our little coaching circle of what's more important, leadership or chemistry. And it was a hill I was going to die on, that it was about leaders. We need guys to stand up in front and yell and spit and, do whatever and be a leader. And if they don't care about one another, if they don't want to have their teammates back, you could have all the leaders you want. But like I said, if they don't genuinely care about their teammate, it's not gonna come through. So, I mean, we sat in our exit meetings last year and I asked them that exact question, like, what's more important, leadership or chemistry? And some of our guys are really, really smart. And they were like, Coach, we didn't have chemistry. So how did we have leaders? I just sat back in my chair like, holy cow, it's pretty profound for a 17-year-old kid. But, that's something we're really focusing on this year is the chemistry within our teams. And we're going to do things to help facilitate that, but I don't think it's anything that could be forced. For example, today we're doing our testing this week, and one of our seniors comes up, and we had, I don't know, maybe 25 minutes left in class after our testing. And he's like, Coach, can we play football? I'm like, heck yeah, go grab the football and get out there and play. Freshmen through seniors are out there playing two-hand touch the last 20 minutes of class. In my mind, they're building chemistry. Anytime they can be with one another, I think they're building chemistry. And we had a long talk in our meeting on Monday. When I'm at lunch duty, I want to see them sitting together, and I will be really, really irritated if, we got 2 guys in this corner and we got 3 guys over here and we got 5 guys over there. Like, you better figure out in your group message who's got what lunch, and I want you sitting together. Does that mean you can't sit with your buddies who don't play baseball? Absolutely not. But I want to see you guys together at the same table. Going to football games. We have our first football game tomorrow night. They better be together. And for whatever reason, I think the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, they haven't been together. They haven't been at school together. They haven't been going to football games or basketball games, because capacities, and we need to make sure the kids that are playing, their parents have priority of tickets and this and that. And for whatever reason, excuse me. So, we're going to do some things that are going to help guide that chemistry and hope to improve it and create it. But again, I don't think it's anything that we can sit there on a daily basis and be like, okay, we're going to create chemistry today. It's got to happen organically. If you're doing the right things, they're always together. They don't have to be best friends, but they need to, when they get on that field. I think you're really, really lacking with your chances of winning and being successful if they don't genuinely care about the guy that's next to them or the guy that's on the field, if whatever it may be.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're trying to create environments for that too.
Right.
Like you're creating an environment that would allow for chemistry as well.
Right.
And
getting them and not telling them about it. Letting them grow together. And putting them in environments, like you said, that are going to facilitate that.
Yeah.
Like
a costume kickball game, you know what I mean? Like, absolutely. Not forcing it, but you're also creating that, you're helping create that.
Right. And I think that's our job as a coach, is to find as many creative ways, I guess, maybe to subliminally create that chemistry. Not necessarily forcing it, but putting them in situations where you're fostering that growth. For example, the way we're stretching, the way we go out and stretch. Now, I don't know. I was just sitting around a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about the way we stretch. We're all spread out. They're in their straight lines. They're doing their movement prep. They're doing all this stuff, but it's clustered. You got all the freshmen over here, and then you got the sophomores over here, and the juniors and the seniors. Obviously, they gravitate to the front. I'm like, can I get them in different spots to where they're around somebody they may not know? So they've done a good job the last couple of days. The way they stretch now, it's got to be in the first group. It's got to be senior, junior, sophomore, freshman, senior, junior, sophomore, freshman. Second one's got to be freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, freshman, and so on and so forth down the line. And every day they got to go to a different spot. Now, are we sitting there charting like who goes where every day? No, but we're encouraging them to get to different places, to be around different kids. Again, when they're stretching, hopefully they're talking to the seniors, talking to the sophomore about God knows what, but he's with them. They're talking, they're creating a relationship. The senior or the freshman is not going to be intimidated by the senior. They're together every day. Again, just to get them to be a little bit more cohesive and be more comfortable around one another, because I necessarily don't want the delineation of, well, you're a freshman, you're a senior, seniors are going to like, I want it to be one group. And maybe within this idea, it's something that again fosters a little bit more chemistry and they're comfortable around one another. And then the senior hopefully will then invite that freshman to sit with him at lunch. And it's just going to create, more of a family-like program or brotherhood, whatever you want to call it, just by that, whim of an idea.
Did you I guess, and I'm just just thinking about guys who might listen, if your guys do this, but listen to this, will you and you've because you kind of talk about this as kind of steering your guys towards a certain word and thinking about who you are, knowing that you're trying to create chemistry and how important it is, will you steer them towards a word like family as part of that's who we're going to be this year? That's who Mauldin baseball is. Family. We're family. Will you steer them toward a word that has to do with chemistry?
Probably, whether it's family, whether it's brotherhood, whether it's, close, tight, whatever it is, it's probably something that I'm going to harp on and talk about a little bit more, because
knowing what you know now based on the last 2 years,
yeah,
like you said, this is important.
But there might be that situation though too, and I'm a little bit weary of it, and this is me, the way my mind works. And I don't know if I had a conversation with somebody about this or somebody talked to it, but in creating culture, some guys on our team or other teams or whatever it may be, they may not know what a family looks like. They might not know because of their home situation. So, we just want something to them that's consistent, they feel safe. So, but yeah, ultimately we'll probably try to get them to move in a direction to where something about being a tight knit group is one of our values for the year.
Yeah, like I said, it just knowing what you know now and how important that is. That's what I was just wondering. But
Yeah.
I think also too, as a coach, you have to, you're this guy steering the ship. You're there, helping the ship roll. And I think you also have to believe in those things that are important.
Right.
For sure, knowing this is going to help us, achieve our mission and vision.
Right. I think too, just looking back and reflecting, I think we took it for granted. We took the time that we would typically spend, and hopefully, I hope I'm not the only one that kind of reflects on last year. Whether guys had a great year, it was a average year, a bad year. Like taking the amount of time for granted that we do spend together and the things that we do. It's not something that just happens. It just doesn't happen. You got to be very intentional with the things that you choose to do with your kids, because they have tons of options. They have different stuff that they want to do. So you got to make sure you're spending the time and brainstorming and, hey, what can we do today? That can hopefully help these kids, grow a little bit closer.
Awesome. I love it. The chemistry and leadership debate. That's great. I think it's also attainable. I think honestly, like the more that I think about that, and I've thought about you a while since we had talked about it, is I think it seems more obtainable. You don't typically say, because like I hear guys say this all the time about, it's hard to create leadership and hard to teach leadership, or like the mental, because they're kind of the same for me as like mental toughness and leadership, because it's
Right.
kind of the same, even though I'd say that they're definitely taught. I mean, the military has taught us it's taught, it can be taught. But I still think, I think when you think of chemistry, people typically would say, I don't never say, well, you can't teach chemistry. You know what I mean? That's not really something that people say. Now people say like, well, they're just born, with chemistry. You know what I mean? So I think it's obtainable. I think it seems more obtainable for other people. Just like the more I've thought about it, and when you kind of hit me with that, and I'm like, wow, I just think it's because I think what you were saying is, when we think of leaders, we think of rah, like you're going to tell everybody what to do. You're going to be at the front and be like, when so many other good leaders weren't like that, And like,
I think that the title of leader too, I've seen it within our program. Guys get to be a senior and they, they get certain accolades and automatically, I think everybody would agree that you expect your best player to be a leader. You expect them to be at the forefront of knowing what's going on and kind of guiding guys to do certain things. But I also think that that's undue pressure, trying to build chemistry. There's no label, there's no label on kids to put more pressure on them than they really need. We've had really, really good players over the last couple of years that they get to be a senior and they don't need any more undue pressure. They're committed to certain schools and they might be looked at as a draft guy. They have enough pressure. They don't need the label of, hey, you're the leader, you're the captain. They need their teammates to support them. They need to support their teammates. They need to care about their teammates. And I think it's just, it creates more of a stress-free environment. Plus you might have guys, if you're labeling the guys who are the leaders or whatever it is, it could possibly even create some divisiveness within your team. Like, why is that guy a leader? Well, and create some unnecessary issues. So, and we've done it. Like we created a task force that we labeled these guys as our leaders and they're going to have some input, but we're have kind of due to this chemistry and leadership debate, our task force, our leadership group is going to be everybody. Our freshmen are going to come in and sit down and talk to me about different things, and I'm going to get their input and I'm going to continue to help them off the field. Sophomores, juniors, seniors, the same thing. Now, obviously, our juniors and seniors especially, are going to have a little bit more say, and I'm going to value their opinion a little bit more than I would a freshman. But it just gives everybody the idea that they have some sort of value, more of a role or a part within your program, as opposed to if it was just like five guys. So again, it's a continuous evolution to see what works and what doesn't.
I was always about trying to get better, find ways, and like you said, you're also giving ownership, creating
Right.
ownership of the program. we're like, oh, these guys are better, or they're the captains and
Right.
things like that. But captains work for other people, and then I think
We do.
through the lessons and mistakes that we go, and like you said, the evolution of us trying to get better, it's just where you're at. You know what I mean? And I think you're gonna exactly help people where they are, because there's things within that, like and even if you just put on to someone, even at that, I don't know, man. There's a lot of good value there, man. I really appreciate you going. I think it's a great, it's just a great way to put things, and I think it's obtainable. I think you do. I think it's less stressful. And I would agree. It's such a unique way to think about it. A chemistry thing instead of a chemistry problem instead of a leadership problem.
Right.
And it's almost like a byproduct. So it's like process and results. And you kind of one's a byproduct of another.
Right.
But because I'm sure somebody could also argue that good leadership leads to chemistry. Like there's just two sides of it. It's just like, well, all right, well, let's just. I think it's just how you can manage it.
Right.
And coach it up.
We've done it the other way too, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's worked at times. We might have some guys that we feel really confident about, and we might go back to the other way. But again, for where we are right now, I feel like this is the best avenue and the best route for us to go, to where we can get back to where we want to be.
Yep. Awesome. Yep. Knowing where your guys are at, seeing what's best for your program, and then it might change year to year.
Right.
I think it's great to hear. Like you heard a lot of that today, man. I think just with you like taking over your core values every year, kind of giving them ownership of it, and like it's just kind of, the thing every day. It just comes down to like what's best for this team right now, and a lot of people aren't like that. It's the consistent thing of we're going to do it this way. Is how it is, and but it also works for that. It's great about baseball, man. It might work for them too.
Right.
Right. I guess you only know when you come into that adversity and you got to make adjustments to it. And
we can't try to do something that, somebody else, whoever it is, I don't know, like what Mose is doing at Hoover, we can't replicate at Mauldin. Like we just can't do it. I don't know what his kids are like. I don't know what his coaching staff is like. Coaches need to do what's going to work for, who they know they have, and to try to replicate what somebody else does, because it sounds good and this and that. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Like, but Butch has coined the phrase over the last couple of months, like UBU, like you got to do what's best for you and your situation. And I'll be the first one to tell you, like we were changing all kinds of stuff based off of what we learned at clinics or what we saw on Twitter, but I think I've done it long enough to where I can sit there and kind of say, okay, this might be good for us if I maybe gear it in this certain direction.
Yeah.
Or take this piece of it.
Yeah.
But to try to replicate exactly what somebody else does, I think it's counterproductive. But taking bits and pieces and making it your own in certain aspects of what you're doing, I think is extremely beneficial. If guys don't try to do that, it kind of goes back to the growth mindset. You got to be always willing to change and adjust and do some things differently on a year-to-year basis. Because again, your kids are different, your team's different.
Awesome. Here we are, nearly 2 hours, almost. Again, so phenomenal. Just love the conversation. Can't thank you enough. Well, can you talk again? What is your Twitter handle?
It's at Maciejewski 24. Is probably the best way.
Maciejewski, so it's MACIEJEWSKI
24. DMs are open. My big thing is if guys want to document or whatever, like call me up, let's talk through it, let's do it. I mean, obviously, we've done it twice now for a while, so
yeah.
I love talking baseball, love talking shop, and love learning. So shoot me a DM. We'll love it.
Coach Maciejewski just giving us some great information. Just one of the lessons that really stood out for me was just the amount of challenge that we have as coaches. Everybody has different situations. Everybody's challenges are different. They're always challenges. You're not going to run from challenges. There's situations where maybe philosophy don't match up, and people don't believe in the same things. But there's always going to be challenges at every job. Like the challenges that he came across today and talked about, and all part of just being a coach and being a good employee. Where we're not better than the challenges. It's a matter of becoming better to deal with the challenges that we're faced with. That's of course what Mach does. That's what he's doing. Is he continues to becoming better so he can deal with the problems that he has, the challenges that he has. It makes him better. He accepts it. I think he talked about having a growth mindset towards it. I just think he's such a valuable conversation with a bunch of lessons. Just love how he talked about his growth mindset. I love how he talked about that's Mauldin. In every year he's trying to help guys buy into who they are, what they're doing, what's it mean to play in this program. And I was creating, and his mindset has shifted from chemistry versus leadership, creating chemistry over leadership. As we have chemistry, leadership would be part of it. And that's where he's at. And he's talking about how he reached out to Tyler Gillum and Gilly's Growth U program. And he created Maciejewski program. What's best for their kids? What's best for his program? So that's different than what's different in Arizona, where Gilly's from. What he does in Mauldin, South Carolina, the structure, the foundation's there. There's have some pillars, but overall, he's got to fix it, fill it out for them, make it better for them. So, just really enjoyed the conversation. And like I said, I can't thank Coach Mach for being understanding of the mistake I made last week. And like I said, he gave us an opportunity to talk even more baseball, get to know each other more. What I've never learned about his unique challenge of being head JV coach and head varsity coach, which I'm sure there's others out there, and I just don't know. Just never heard of it. Never did it. And just a unique situation, and he embraced it, loves it. And, for the kind of coach that wants to make an impact, you're going to make a huge impact there, having kids for all 4 years, being the head JV coach, head varsity coach. So, super cool. Can't thank him enough. Like I said, I can't thank Will Miner and those guys at Netting Pros enough, too. Make sure you check those guys out. Give them a good follow. They take care of us a lot. I know that with all the podcast stuff that we're doing, and love being part of the podcast, Netting Pros Family Chat family. So, check those guys out. Thanks for sticking with us. It's an episode that I just love. It's not one I'm not going to forget, and it's going to help me get better moving forward. And hope you guys continue to get better. So until next week, keep getting better.